All right, everyone, welcome to the Kubernetes 1.8 release Burndown meeting. It's Wednesday, September 6th, 2017. And this is the first Burndown meeting, so I anticipate it might be a little bit choppy as we get our bearings, but I will do my best. And I would ask everyone who has been through these Burndown meetings in the past to please step up and help guide the conversation in a way that is most meaningful and impactful for people's time. And if you have not seen it, the agenda and meeting notes are available at bit.ly/Kates18release, all one word, all lowercase. And you can see people who have signed in there. And if you're not on the list, could you also sign in there just so we know who attended the meeting? And we'll go ahead and kick it off here pretty quick. So basically the agenda that is in the document as it stands now was cribbed from the 1.7 Burndown meetings. Could we just take a quick look at that and see if there are things here that we want to have as agenda items as a regular cadence that are missing? I'm looking at people who have also been on prior release teams to see if there were things that they wish they had had in the list. And if so, let's maybe have a quick discussion about things we need to have in this for regular discussion. Caleb, Eric, Dan, anybody want to chime in on that?
Explicitly calling out release notes might be a good idea.
Okay. So there's a section that's documentation and marketing. Would that be better served as release notes in marketing?
I would still keep documentation, but just maybe adding it to that, or just making sure that we keep it in mind.
Yeah, I think we want to keep release notes and documentation as distinct items.
Cool, got it. Great, that's a great thing, thank you. And whomever is busily updating test infra updates, thank you for that. Any other things that we want to make sure we cover? There, in prior meetings, they also had EDE testing updates, branch health status, which would probably be Adam, who I think is driving right now, so I don't know how much you can participate, but that's something. Do we want to look at that as an inclusion in these as well?
I also have a quick thing from SIG scheduling. There is that we got an exception for adding preemption. Basically, that's your. I would like to give an update on that as well. Okay. You are in the agenda as the second bullet point under the exception requests, and there's a document that links out to that has the full discussion in it. Oh, okay. Thanks.
You bet. Let me actually make that shareable so that people can see it, because I think it's just shared with sig-release right now.
Yeah.
Anybody can view, comment. Okay, permissions on that document should be good now. All right. Any other things that we want to have updated regularly in these meetings? Anybody? Okay, cool. So blocking items right now, we're pretty early in this process, so it's been pretty hectic for me the last several days, so I have not actually gone through and updated my issues in the 1.8 milestone yet. I need to do that, and when I do, I'll have that ready for Friday's meeting. That's definitely where some of our blocking items will emanate from, so I want to keep a close eye on that. And let's see, somebody's typing in there. Yes, cross repo. So another source of blocking items is going to be things like kubeadm they're going to be cross repo, and we'll make sure that we get those. The kubeadm folks were really kind and created an issue that's a cross-tracking issue, so it's in Kubernetes. So we've agreed that any blocking issues that come up with kubeadm will be tracked in that issue. I'll link to that also for the next Burndown meeting. So in terms of other blocking items, are there Anything anybody else is aware of that doesn't fall into the test infra or other areas that we're going to talk about later currently?
Hi, this is Mehdi. I'm trying to actually get somebody to look at the upgrade tests.
Okay.
I couldn't actually get the team to look at it. Do you guys know? The problem is with the upgrade test infrastructure itself rather than specific test. Do you guys know who should I talk with? Who should I push on that?
Can ask Chris. Yeah. Chris Rosen.
Eric, any ideas on that?
No, I'm a little lost on that as well. We see, I mean, GKE on the EDE tests are also failing, and at some point I'm just going to go bug the who's ever the test info person on call. But beyond that, I've not gotten any specific answers. I sort of hear through the grapevine that people know that it's failing and that it's expected, but I don't know who owns it or who,
Has Sen weighed in?
Sen just said something. Can you repeat it louder?
So I think Chris knows the most for those upgrade tests, and he helped a lot during the last release. Yes, like what's the feeling? I saw the issue you opened for like the logs missing. I think Shyam is fixing that.
Yeah. Do we want to just dive into test infra updates, or do we have any other items that we want to go over first?
Before we get there, and I don't know if I'm jumping ahead, but I was under the impression I've still seen that the release notes maybe are still underpopulated, but I'm not sure if that is the case. I was under that impression as of Monday anyway.
Yeah, that is absolutely correct, and we'll hit that when we get down to the release notes section for sure. Before we move on to test infra, I'd like to go through the exception requests. There are 2 currently. They're documented in this, which I will paste in chat in case you don't have access to it. The first is the arbitrary custom metrics in the HPA, monitoring pipeline metrics API. I assume that people have reviewed this, but I would welcome commentary on this. And we can make a note of that in the document and then deliver that information to the SIG.
I think traditionally we try and lean on the SIG leads as much as possible. Presumably they're the SIG TL, if they are okay with it, should be generally fine.
That is, this was actually generated by the SIG TL, so I think that in this case that would probably qualify. And my
about the metrics API.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, I agree. Clayton responded to that thread, and I agree with what Clayton said. That is probably low risk.
Hey, Jace, are you looking at a page besides the release notes, like GitHub page or something?
For the feature exceptions?
Or yeah, for what you're looking at, is it that?
Yeah, it's that link doc.
Yeah, it's just a doc because it had all the email threads in it and stuff. It's not actually in GitHub, unfortunately. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Got
it. So are there any objections to this moving forward as it stands?
None for me.
All right. I'll make sure that I respond to the thread then and let them know that is the case. Great. Next one is pod preemption. There was a little bit of discussion about it. It seemed like the relevant TLs weighed in on it. There was a bit of concern around risk and whatnot. I had asked some clarifying questions to just make sure that we understood the full scope of the risk and whatnot. So are there anybody here representing that particular request?
Yes, so this is Bobby Salamat. So so we talked about it, and now we almost all agree that the risk is really minimal because we don't really start doing any of the algorithm that is added recently if the feature is disabled. So we don't see any major problem here. And I think the PR is ready, it just needs to be approved and merged. So hopefully we can get it done today or tomorrow. Hopefully today. Yeah.
Are there any concerns or objections to this moving forward from anybody in this meeting? Okay, could you please, when that PR is ready, just make sure that you CC the Kubernetes /release Kubernetes-release-managers team so that we see it, and we'll make sure that it gets through the approval process.
Sure, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving along. So branch updates is the next thing in the agenda. It looks like wait until cherry pick mode for most things. Phil, do you want to talk about that or?
Jace,
yeah.
Quick interrupt.
Sure.
There was one PR from Solly which got merged inadvertently, I think. I pasted the PR link in the chat if anybody wants to object or we are okay with that.
Oh, interesting.
Solly is here too. I believe his mic is broken.
How did this get merged without having approved for milestone?
It was approved for it was marked with milestone.
Yeah, but it didn't have the approved for milestone label. I was in the impression that it actually took both.
That. No.
Okay.
It's not enforcing that.
It should be, because at this point, this can happen where the SIG may not even have any knowledge of whatever happened.
Isn't that the API that we just agreed to give an exception to?
This particular thing?
This is graduating metrics V1 alpha to V1 beta.
Yeah, the metrics API is the one that we just gave the exception to, right?
Didn't we give the exception to the HPA?
HPA, it was, well, there's monitoring pipeline metrics, but not.
This is that, I believe.
Is it? Okay. Oh yeah, migrate blah, 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 HPA, control REST client, now use that version, API. Huh.
Yeah. So I think it's no harm, no foul in this case, but we do want to make sure we know what the submit queue is doing.
Yeah, agreed. I want to follow up on why we're not enforcing the milestone, approved for milestone.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so just to clarify, that was one of two PRs that was in this exception request. They're kind of like, there were 3 PRs in this release that were tightly tied together that were like all similar APIs that were technically distinct APIs, but were kind of graduating together. So the exception request was for the resource metrics API and the HPA API. And so the resource metrics API got merged kind of accidentally, like you just saw.
So Sally, do you feel like that the PR actually had enough review on it, given?
Yeah, we had been talking about it, and it had gotten kind of like an unofficial LGTM. It's just no one had actually typed out the / part of the LGTM. So it was fine. It was ready to be merged.
It was mostly waiting on the ruling on the exception request, honestly.
Oh. Yeah, exactly.
So the fortune telling aspect of the PR was fully operational. That's good. Okay. Yeah, like somebody said, no harm, no foul. But this is definitely something we need to keep a close eye on. This sort of thing. Maru, you're in this meeting, correct?
Correct.
What's the status with what is actually hinging on or dependent on the approved for milestone label? Is there anything actually tied to that?
I'm working on something that'll tie it in, but we still need to enable on well, okay. I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, there's something in process. The goal was to get a new iteration of the Munger in place maybe by Friday. That would require that all issues in the milestone have approval. And going forward, creating a new issue, adding to the milestone will require that approval is maybe within 7 days is given by one or more SIGs. Otherwise, it'll be removed. So it's eventual, though. We don't have that today.
Okay. Yeah. So we're just in that weird interim period, which is fine.
Yeah, but note that that's for issues. That doesn't really relate to pull requests.
Right. Should the approved for milestone even apply to PRs?
I mean, I guess the idea is stuff in the milestone, if it's important enough, should have an issue and not sort of the traceability. So you don't really need it for PRs unless there's no associated issue.
Okay.
Clear as mud.
All right, cool. Critical build failures. We're not really there yet, unless somebody has something they want to add there.
I just wanted to add one thing about the branch updates.
Okay, sure, Phil.
I just want to make sure that when we're in the mode of having both a branch that we're periodically updating and committing to master and code slush at the same time, we shouldn't be duplicating efforts and looking at old results of tests that are running on the branch that are also running on master. We just want to make sure that the branch tests themselves are like healthy enough that there's not like underlying infrastructure problems there. But the main results we should be looking at are the ones on master until we go into cherry pick mode.
Okay. Okay, great. Anything else in that that you want to update?
Nope, that's all I had.
Great. All right, so the big enchilada here is the test infra updates. There's a lot here. I didn't type any of this, so whomever did this, probably Eric, go ahead and run with it.
I didn't do the top test grid one. If somebody wants to take that, but
that was me. I was just sort of trying to call out that, hey, look, we do appear to have a release 1.8 branch, and we have some test grid things that are driven from that. They don't have all the 1.8 jobs that you would expect looking at, say, the 1.7 test grid tabs. That's because Sen is still in the process of adding those. And in the context of upgrade tests, it seems like we don't yet have any equivalent to those upgrade tabs there. I don't see those tracked under that issue. Sen, do you know if we should be using a separate issue to track addition of upgrade jobs? Or
yes, there's. I'll open another one for the upgrade and SKU tests, but for now, just refer to the master upgrade and master SKU.
Okay.
They are essentially the same. I will add. Yeah, I'll open another issue and probably put it out here.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I guess I wasn't super clear, but it sounds like based on what Phil said earlier, these are all cool and nice to have, but we don't care while we're in code freeze. Right now, we should be looking at release master blocking.
Right. We just want to get them set up and prepped so we don't have a couple days of thrashing trying to get them set up when we're trying to get out of code freeze.
Got it. All right. Eric, you're
yeah, so the big item is that the GKE EDE tests, just the actual infrastructure underneath it is failing to come up. I hear people know that, and we'll get that fixed. The good part is that the other tests, the GCI EDE tests, all look good. We don't have any EDE failures that I'm aware of specifically. The There are a few items that are still red, namely there's some federation stuff, some scale stuff, and one of the alpha jobs is failing to come up as well. I'll be investigating the alpha one, but the federation one is known and will not be, is not release blocking. And yeah. For the upgrade tests, we're having issues actually debugging some of the upgrade tests because they're not collecting logs properly. So the tests will fail, but we won't have any logs to collect for any of the components like the API server or the manager. This is a known issue, and we're trying to get this fixed so we can start to actually fix the upgrade tests that are failing. So there are known failures with the upgrade tests, and that have owning SIGs, but we're having trouble fixing them because we don't have the logs for the actual failures. A few of the other upgrade tests are failing to come up. I'm again told that this is known and will be fixed soon. So overall, we have some pretty bad infrastructure failures, but in terms of the tests that are up and coming up and running, we have pretty strong green signal from them.
Eric, are there issues tracking all those things you just described?
There are issues tracking most of them. I will try to hunt them down and put them in. The infrastructure ones I've not been creating, just in terms of GKE failing to come up. I can create those if that helps people just coordinate around.
Yeah,
that might be useful.
Yeah, I would also value that. Thank you.
Okay.
Are you blocked on anything?
I'm mostly just blocked on the component logs for the test infra, and we're working with for the upgrade tests, not spitting out logs, and I'm working with test infra to try to get that fixed.
All right, so was that all you had on there, Eric, or was the rest of this somebody else's?
Oh yeah, so there's another item that there was apparently talk of Google doing large-scale upgrade tests, and they will not be pursuing that, so they won't be doing the large-scale upgrade tests on like 1,000-node clusters, according to yeah. I didn't add the AWS or the release 1A notes, so if somebody else wants to chat about that, that'd be great.
I don't have full context, but I know that for the past week or so, the AWS pre-submit job, or the job that runs on pull requests, has been failing for a variety of reasons. Initially, it seemed to be failing because it wasn't using the right version of code, either for tests or for the cluster that was being stood up. We believe that's resolved. I'll find the issue that we believe we finally fixed that under. It was then starting to fail repeatedly because the janitor job responsible for cleaning up loose cruft in the AWS account wasn't running. And so we hit a quota issue in that AWS account. I think the quota issue is also resolved, but I don't know for sure. But I think we're in this weird place right now where that job is run against everybody's pull requests, and the bot will comment if that job fails, but the job's not actually blocking. And I'd like to understand if we get back to a place where that job is blocking again, so that we have a pre-submit signal on whether or not Kubernetes is working across multiple cloud providers. Justin, I think you're on this call. Do you have any more color to add to that?
This is Sam. I want to add something to the sig-release job. So currently, it's still using a fairly old kubetest image, like from March-ish, because it's using a separate pipeline of code. I kind of want to migrate everything to be using the latest kubetest, because the issue it's failing is we moved like we move something somewhere and it's using the old version. And to me, it's like if we can unify everything to using the latest code, that will be helpful for the future. So I'll probably migrate that during the freeze and make sure that's healthy and we can make it blocking again.
Okay.
I know the job went green last night. Do we know if it is actually testing the PR level correctly now?
So I believe Jeff Grafton put in the fix for that yesterday. I'll see if I can find the pertinent issue. And SIG testing is having sort of a closer discussion later today to make sure that everything is in sync. So just for this audience's context, I just want to make sure that, like, I personally find it unacceptable that we don't have multiple cloud providers blocking code going in right now. We only have GCE, right? So I want us to get back to that state, and I'd like to have something I'd like to see if we're there by Friday. But like the trend that I want to avoid is flipping jobs in and out of blocking just because they're failing for a long time. I don't understand I don't really have the full history that allowed cops to get to the point where it was failing and failing and failing, and we just kicked it out because it was failing. Like, I don't understand why the right resources weren't mobilized to make sure that it went back to actually working again. That's the point of making a test blocking. So just because it's green right now doesn't necessarily mean we want to put it back in. We're going to make sure we can have a plan to make sure that it stays green going forward. So
right, just to add color too. I mean, the point of a pre-submit test is to protect the master branch, right? And once we identified that what that test job was doing because of old infrastructure was not actually testing with the test in the PR, we knew that it wasn't actually protecting the master branch. And so it wasn't just kicked out because it was failing, it was kicked out because it was failing in a way that did not protect the master branch and then actually was blocking merging the fixes to the master branch. So it wasn't just arbitrary moving it while it was being worked on.
Yeah, I understand that. So I'll have more to report next Burndown meeting on Friday.
All right, thanks.
Thanks, Aaron. There's another item at the bottom of this testing section, release-1.8 CI setup. Was that you, Sen, or was that somebody else?
Yeah, it's mostly covered in the top section.
Okay. Great. Okay. Any other items we want to go over for test/infra or test infra updates? Okay, great. Documentation and marketing is probably a bit early for this, but I guess the big thing here is how do we best ensure that the documentation team and also marketing have what we need? Because we do have a nice offer from the CNCF as per normal to help do marketing around features and whatnot. So I want to make sure that we're leveraging all those resources as much as possible. And
I just wanted to call out one thing with regard to documentation, and I don't know that I'm necessarily speaking to the right set of stakeholders, but y'all are a good place to start, right? If folks are submitting pull requests against Kubernetes.github.io against the documentation repository for 1.8, please, 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 for now, submit your request against the 1.8 branch, not against master. We're having to wrangle this on the doc side of things. So if you know of folks who are submitting PRs against that repo, please help them, help us, help the documentation. I was hoping Steve would be on this call because I'm a maintainer. I'm not in charge of the 1.8 docs. I'm just helping with the release notes. But I am a maintainer in that repo, and it's been causing those of us, especially who are new to the repo, a little bit of a headache.
Can you just close the master branch to contributions?
Well, the thing is, I can ask, but my understanding is we've got rolling updates to stuff that does need to get fixed in the master branch for the current release of the documentation. I mean, it's a reasonable ask, but that doesn't reflect how we currently manage the repo.
I'm just thinking, like, this problem happens every single release, and it's just apparently impossible to train 1,000 developers to.
Okay. Well, look, we've got enough maintainers. We can wrangle it on our end too. Like I've got
a bit more depth to the suggestion, which is close master branch for country, make a master staging branch. If you want to get a change live, you put it there, and then periodically somebody with push access can pull that branch and push it to master.
Okay, I will float that and see. I mean, I don't know. I may be, a very small minority of people who are finding this to be an issue.
No, but something ought to be done because every single release this happens.
Okay, well, that's good to know too. At least, yeah. So we've got a docs meeting tomorrow. I will take this to them too and see if we can converge on something that'll work a bit better than me staring at a current PR and saying, this does not look like it belongs in 1.7 without being quite sure how to test, right? So, okay, thanks.
Yeah,
bet. I mean, the broader ask, this seems symptomatic of the fact that the development model for docs is slightly different than the development model for Kubernetes. Right now, if I wanted to make updates to 1.7 specific code, I'd be doing it against the release 1.7 branch in Kubernetes.
Right, and by slightly different, we mean completely opposite.
Well, yeah, right? So it's just confusing to me. I recognize that it is backwards. It's confusing to me why it's backwards if this is the technical.
Okay.
It's the limitation of the way GitHub publishes from the repo, I think. That's what was explained to me previously.
Yep, GitHub publishes by default. If we, because we publish out of the repo to the website, GitHub publishes from the master branch or from a GitHub Pages branch. And those are your two choices. That said, the suggestion to, submit your changes against the appropriate branch, keep master closed, and then we can periodically merge to master to get stuff published. That sounds perfectly reasonable to me. I don't know. I'm a newcomer. I will take it to the docs meeting tomorrow and find out whether this is, whether I'm reinventing a conversation wheel. But I can't know till I ask, right?
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for bringing that up. That's really important info for us to have. Okay. Any other docs and or marketing things that we want to cover at the moment? And by the way, Steve Perry is on the meeting. So
yeah, I am here, and thanks, Jennifer, for that. This is my first hour back from a week and a half of vacation, so it'll take me a while to get.
Oh my gosh, Steve, I'm happy I didn't see you when I joined the meeting, and I thought, okay, we need to sync up separately from this meeting too. But, I'm sorry, I didn't check again right before I spoke up.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Steve.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks.
Yes, it's good to have you here.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to release note updates. I can't remember who called it out because it's that kind of day, but yeah, the release notes draft is not looking fully formed at all at this point. So I did implore in an email yesterday to have SIGs please try and continue updating. Unfortunately, it looks like this is going to have to be a pavement pounding exercise to go harass SIGs individually. Sorry, Radhika. If any of you are in SIGs that have not closed out their release items, that would be great if you could just take responsibility from this meeting and bring that into your SIG. I have to do that myself in SIG Azure, so yeah, more eyes on this, the better. Anything you want to add, Radhika?
Not really. So there are like 4 SIG have marked done, but there are I guess there are many to come because September 8th is the date to complete entering the release note items. So I think we should wait for another 2 days and see how things are happening, and then maybe send out a note. And we are editing release note. We have started, and yeah.
A quick question.
Sorry.
Sorry, this is Phil. My SigCLI, I don't think has any things that are in the features repo because there's no major features going in. In the past, we've published release notes for like bug fixes and these sorts of things. And those, in the past, we've driven off of the PRs instead of having some central place that we've tracked every piece of work that's gone in. Would we still like to see that sort of things here in these release notes? And if we do, is there like still a source that we can go to for all those PRs that's been formatted for us?
So there's a release notes draft. You've seen that, Phil?
Is that the published PR that's manually written, or is it a different one?
This is, if you go to the Kubernetes /features 1.8, it's in there.
Yeah, it's the manual one. There hasn't been any scraping of the PRs to my knowledge yet. I heard there was workaround, new tooling to do that.
Should we then hold off until that's tooling done, or should we be trying to do something else to populate this stuff?
So the tooling is going to get us a very dirty set of docs to work from, and probably going to require a fair amount of human intervention anyway. What I would rather have is have you have what you want in there for SigCLI, and then if duplication comes up via the automation effort, we'll just use that as a clarification if necessary. We're doing this backwards, this release, and it's painful. It should be the other way around. You should be able to tailor the automated results, but just for timing purposes, I don't think that's going to be the best course of action. I'd rather have you put stuff in there that is already, you've curated as a SIG.
Yeah, and just to close the loop on that, I also heard the same thing Caleb heard. I heard it at the contributor experience meeting that we just came from, which was recorded and will be posted on YouTube if you want to, and I can find the meeting notes. But it sounds like there will be a tool that will hopefully look closer to the thing that Don was describing. That would be somewhere further than just like a changelog.md entry with a single line for every pull request. It might actually be aggregated by some things, but I would echo Jace's recommendation that you just go ahead and manually do that for now. Better to be prepared.
Yeah.
And I don't want to speak out of turn for Radhika, but I think that she shares my feeling that if y'all need help with this, let us know. Radhika's leading the effort, but you've got 2 technical writers willing to help, and we'd rather help early and often than have to clean things up, do mostly cleaning stuff up at the end. So if you're struggling with your release notes, ask for help and we will provide it.
Thank you. That is such a generous offer. How many open source projects can you name that have 2 full-time release note editors available? Come on, guys, this is awesome.
None.
Not even. So yeah, let's publicize that. If you're in a SIG, make sure that, and you haven't got those notes in, let's make sure that people know that you don't have to necessarily go it alone.
I mean, Phil, from your perspective of scraping things from pull requests, do you know which pull requests you would be sourcing from? Do you have like a query or something you can use to start from?
No, I'm pretty confused about it, actually. I haven't tried. I don't think there's a way for me to query things with release notes. I guess I'd start by looking for every PR that has SigCLI on it, but I'm not confident that those have been applied across everything.
The bot should hopefully have applied the release note label.
Okay.
So that should help you in your query.
Yeah.
So just maybe SigCLI and then with a release note, and then I can just go through all of those.
Yeah. It should give you the list.
Thank you. That's helpful.
And I actually have that already done, Phil. I have every PR that has ever been merged that has release notes equal to true for the label is in a spreadsheet that I've been tracking because this stuff that's lurking out there scares me. So I wanted to keep a second view on it. So I'm happy to share that with you, and you can look there as well.
That would be awesome. Would you mind adding a link maybe to the document?
Yeah, it's
maybe not now, but later.
It's bit.ly/18 rel notes.
This release brought to you by Bitly.
Well, yeah, I pretty much use Bitly way too much. I'm sorry, but that's the way my brain works.
My other point of caution might be that issues are the things that the bot will nag you to add a sig label to. To my knowledge, pull requests do not require sig labels to be applied to them, only issues. So if people have been diligent and actually done their, like, in the comment of the pull request, link back to the issue, then you can go for that. But I don't know of an automated way to construct a query to tie those things together.
So
Yes.
Believe it or not, Aaron, there is 100% use of SIGs on PRs.
Sweet, I stand corrected.
I don't know how it happened or what compelled people to want to do it. It does nag you when you do a PR to put a SIG. I'm super thankful for that. It's made this job a lot easier.
That's amazing. Whoever did that, thank you so much.
Yes, seriously. There's also, to that note, there's bit.ly/18 issues that has all the issues in it as well. So, all right. Anything else anybody wants to hit before we go to the final agenda item, which is just announcements and open mic? It's not rel issues, it's just 1.8 issues. So I think that's it. One thing I wanted to bring up is something that we can capture that we need to make sure we don't do again for 1.9 is the OpenAPI spec update that happens after the branch gets cut. That was nasty. And it happened exactly the same way for 1.7. So if we do it again in 1.9, I'm going to be very disappointed. So we need to put an action item somewhere to handle that.
That reminds me. So having a somewhere to start dumping retrospective items now would be helpful for us as we encounter these going forward. Because I have like my little notebook with some handwritten things here, but I think if we as a team had a shared place, either these meeting notes or another doc or something, that would be really helpful.
I will start that. This may be the first retrospective since 1.3 that I won't run because I actually want to participate in it. So this will be, yeah. If anybody here wants to volunteer to facilitate the retro, that would be great.
I mean, I can't recall how we've rolled up these retrospective items in the past. Other people who've participated, please chime in if you know if we've tracked this before. But I've been under the impression that we just sort of like squirrel away our troubles and concerns and then put them in the doc when we're going to have the retrospective later. It seemed like maybe it'd be cool to roll those up as we go along.
I'm starting the document now, by the way, just FYI.
So the question about the OpenAPI update, this is about the versioning change in OpenAPI, right? When we branch, we need to update it.
It's the version in the file, the generator, the spec actually has that as an item in it.
It's possible. Maybe it's possible to add it to our branching tool on a go. To when it branches, when it creates a new branch, it can update OpenAPI. Because basically that's where it gets its version. When you create a new branch, the version is changing. So I can, if you guys want, I can look at that to see if I can add it there or do something about it.
Okay, thanks, Maddie. That's great. It'd be just good to know what our options are. That has far-reaching implications when that's not in place. So.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, I'll have the 1.8 release retrospective document in place. Hopefully by the end of today. So and I'll put a link in the document and also share it in the sig-release Slack channel. Anybody else have anything else they would like to add thus far? All right. I have a personal request, and that is.
Sorry. This is Dan. I have actually one question for the upgrade test. So, are we deprecating all the CDM upgrade tests? Is that right? 418.
I'm sorry. I didn't understand the question. I didn't hear it.
So, like, we don't care like container VM upgrade test anymore, right? 418.
That sounds correct to me. I think that's like just being deprecated now in the next 2 weeks.
Do we want to add cost upgrade support?
I think we already have that's GCI, right?
Yeah. If it's only, so that's only GCI. Yeah.
Yes. I think
okay.
It sounds like maybe something we can put in an issue describing upgrade test creation, and we can make sure that SIG-Node is notified to put a comment on there that they agree which things we should and shouldn't be upgrading.
Yes, I can talk with them.
I've got one other question, and I apologize if I missed it in all this discussion. Are we cutting a beta today?
That is the hope, yes.
Okay. So we don't, is anything blocking us from cutting the beta?
Well, the test issues, I think, is one thing.
Sorry. I'm trying to raise it in the context of, like, if I look at release master blocking and Annika is not going to cut a beta until everything there is green. Everything there is not green.
Right.
Are we actively making sure we've got each of those red tests going to green, or are we going to remove them from the dashboard to make sure that it's only going to be green tests, or are we going to somehow run Anago so it ignores those tests? What's the plan?
Adam, unfortunately, is not able to speak. He's having limited bandwidth at the moment. I believe he can hear these things, so Adam, if you want to update the strategy that you want to propose for cutting the branch or cutting the release later on, that would be great. Just do it in the sig-release Slack channel.
Yeah, that's fine. We can hash it out there. I'm expressing concern that I thought when we started this process we were going to draw a hard line that said, like, only green tests. Otherwise, if we start the pattern of cutting releases when there are some green and some red, that's the pattern we're going to use all the way through this burndown process, and that effectively means whatever CI signal we have, we can explain away as humans, and it will require us to interpret the tests a lot more carefully.
Yeah.
Which is how it's always been done, and how we can do it again this release. So
I don't want to have us do that, but this feels like the cart in front of us, and we're chasing it down a hill, and it seems like this happens every time. I don't know. I mean, we get better at it, but it's still every time. Yeah, let's let Adam throw some stuff out there later on, and we'll hit that.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up, Aaron. It's important. Any other things anybody else has before I have one last point? Okay, cool. My request is this is my first time being release manager and also facilitating these meetings, the release meetings. I would love to know what I can do better. So I'm very open to criticism as long as it's hopefully not too pointed, and any ways that I can do better at this job. And if there are things that are happening as we move along that you would like to see me do differently, please reach out privately in Slack or however you want to do that and let me know, because I really do want to try and make this better and also document a lot of the things that are happening so that we can make it easier for whoever comes next. So that's my personal ask. I want to be the best at this I can be. So.
Cool. Doing good so far from here.
Okay, great. All right, without further ado, 7 minutes back in everybody's schedule. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll see you the same time on Friday to hopefully get some more information. Thanks, everybody.